Hey guys, I'm Greg. Welcome to Gregsbeerreviews today. Let's go see what's in the fridge today, guys. Hey guys, thanks for stopping by Gregsbeerreviews today. Today's beer comes from Firestone Walker Brewing. These guys are out in California. These guys make some exceptionally well made beers. This one is their Nitro Merlin, which means it has nitrogen introduced into the canning process or bottling process, however you get your version of nitro beers, which usually means if you pour it aggressive quickly after you either pop the cap or the top on the can, you get a cascading effect from the nitrogen, and usually pretty impressive looking in the glass if you can pour it quickly enough and to be able to see that cascading effect. This is not a huge beer. It's only 5.5%, so fairly easy drinking. One beer is not going to inebriate you. And they make different styles of stouts and milk stouts. Some are very sessionable, like this will probably be. It's 5.5%, and some of them are even the 8, 10, 12% versions. So this is a easy drinking. You could probably even have this for breakfast on the weekend if you're not going to work. I don't want to advocate anybody drinking beer then going to work, because I would think your employer would probably frown on that. And especially if you're operating any kind of heavy machinery or any kind of saws or anything where you can cut your arms, fingers, or something like that off, you probably shouldn't be drinking alcohol while you're operating that. So, but could be a breakfast beer. That's where I'm going with that. So, commercial description on this one, we'll jump over to Untappd, and they say, it's a paragraph long, bear with me here. The new ingredients is lactose, aka milk sugar. When Velvet Merlin is brewed with milk sugar to create Nitro Merlin milk stout, the effect is similar to adding cream to your dark roasted coffee. The result is a stout that is still dark and roasty, but now with a mellow sweetness and added roundness of body. So that's the difference basically between a nitro version of a beer and one that's not. So that's all we need to talk about, and guys, I am going to try to get this into the glass fairly quickly. And they usually have a lot bigger hiss. And that's probably one of the most aggressive pours you've ever seen me do. And we got a nice head on this thing. Let me spin this can back around. And I don't know if you can see any of the cascading effect. It's not as prominent as a lot of them are. But we did, and the head is super creamy looking. I mean, it is really creamy looking. And we got a nice 1.25 of head on that, a super aggressive pour. Over into the light, I'm getting some red rubbiness around it. It's not pitch black like a lot of stouts are, guys. Looks a lot like a porter in a glass. But the head is super creamy on the sides and on the top. Almost looks like there's yogurt on top of it. Good looking beer. This comes from Brandon C. down in Texas. Thanks a bunch, Brandon. I do appreciate it, sir. Let's get the nose on it. rich roasted malt. I'm getting some slight hint of some coffee in there. It doesn't say anything about any coffee being used in this brewing process. Got has a nice sweetness. I'm not getting any alcohol on the nose. But I am getting the coffee. I'm picking up some coffee on this beer. I really am. So, and I usually give you the food pairings while I'm pouring, but I was concentrating on the pour. Food pairing says general, chocolate, dessert, glass by the pint, becker, non-tumbler mug, signed Sandel. I got my favorite tulip glass. It says here not recommended for extended cellarings unless ABV extends average range. 5.5%. If they've used any coffee in it, you probably would want to drink it pretty quick. And before I take a sip, there is writing on the bottom of it. It's kind of smeared. Very hard to read. To me, it looks like it's... I'm not going to be able to read that, guys. It is so smeared, I can't make out what it's trying to tell me. Canned on 01/02 of 18, January 2nd of 2018 is what it's saying. So today is like the 6th of February, just barely over a month in the can, pretty fresh. And that head is sticking around, guys. We still got a good finger of creamy head on that beer. It does look like a dessert. It looks like there's yogurt on top of it. It's so creamy. And it's hanging around. So let's dive in and see what we got. Cheers, everybody. Cheers, Brandon. Nice roastiness to it. Non-existent alcohol taste. Slight hint of some coffee. A little bit of vanilla. Very nice. And to me, guys, these lower ABV stouts, the 5%ers, between 5 and 6%ers, to me usually tend to be a little on the thin, watery side. And this is a little on the thin side too. It's not like you're drinking an 8, 10, 12% stout where you got a big, thick, creamy, medium bodied. I wouldn't call this a medium bodied beer. This is more like a thin body because of the ABV being that low. Look at the lacing it's leaving on there. Unbelievable. Very nice. And that's from the nitrogen they've used. Gives it that big creamy head and lacing on the glass. Very decent beer right now, guys. It is a little on the thin side because of the low ABV. To me, this is my opinion now. But it's still a very nice stout. Probably not something that I would run out and purchase because of the ABV. When I buy a stout, I'm usually looking for something a little bit bigger, 8% or bigger, in my stouts personally, because I don't drink these things for breakfast. So I want a little heavier, thicker body on the stouts that I purchase. So, wouldn't be my first choice, but it is a well-made beer, guys. So, let me sip on this, let her taste it. I'll be right back. Alright, guys, I'm back. Been sipping on this for a while. Outstanding lacing is leaving on the glass. Nice creaminess to it, too. But like I said earlier, it's a little thin on the mouthfeel. More than likely because it's a 5.5% and not a big beer. I do find it enjoyable, like I said earlier. Not something that I would probably run out and pick up because of the ABV. I like my stouts a little bit heavier than this, than a 5.5%er. If I'm paying for a stout, I like for it to be in the 8% and up range. It's just me, though. I usually finish up the evening with the bigger stouts, and this doesn't fit into that category. So, like I said, you could probably drink this for breakfast on a weekend if you didn't have to go to work. But like I said, it doesn't have the mouthfeel to me. I like a little thicker mouthfeel than what I'm getting from these low ABV stouts, but it is a very well made beer for what it is, and I'm going to grade it accordingly. They don't say it's a big beer, it's a 5.5%er. Very enjoyable, nice roasted malt, nice creaminess too because of the nitrogen they've used, a nice sweetness because of the lactose they've used. Very enjoyable beer, a nice. I am getting some coffee. It doesn't say anything about any coffee being introduced to it during the brewing process. A little bit of vanilla. Not getting a lot of dark fruit or anything like this. It's not pitch black. There is some light coming through the beer. It looks more like a porter than a stout, but these guys can call it whatever they want to call it. To me, I would call it, if it was me and I was brewing, I would call it a nitro porter. But it is what it is. So let's do the final chug here, guys. Like I said, awesome creaminess to the beer because of the nitrogen they've used. So, final chug. I want you to look, when you take a sip, look at all that creaminess on the glass. Very impressive. A very light, easy drinking nitro stout is what they're calling it. A lot of flavor, a little thin, but that's to be expected with that ABV. So, very nice. I enjoyed this. A very tasty, low ABV version of a stout. So, to me, guys, it's not blowing my hair back on my socks off. But I do think it's a well-made beer. It does have the ABV and the can-on date on it. Honestly, guys, I'm going to give this an A-. I think it is a well-made beer. Very enjoyable, and like I said, not something that's going to knock your socks off as far as alcohol content. I'm not tasting any of the alcohol. Basically, invisible to me. So, very easy drinking for a stout. A nice entry level stout, if you will. So that's what I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna put it an A-90 for me, guys. Over to Beer Advocate. Beer Advocate says 4.11. That's also in their A- category. And Untapped has it at 3.98. And you got to grade these guys on a curve. That is right in their A- scale too. So we're gonna say it's unanimous. It's an A- beer for me, and both Untapped and Beer Advocate. So if you've had this, the Nitro Merlin from Firestone Walker, let me know what you think. Until we meet again, let's go see what's in that fridge.